I was just playing with a song that we used to do in a band, Gotta Serve Somebody by Bob Dylan. You may be the ambassador to England or France. You might like to gamble, you might like to dance. You may be the heavyweight champion of the world. You may be a socialite with a long string of pearls. But you're going to have to serve somebody. Yeah, you're going to have to serve somebody. It may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. It's a great song that invites us to think about what is it or who is it we serve in our lives. We all make choices in our lives. We all make decisions to follow one way or another. In everything there are choices between different options, good and evil perhaps, or some are neutral, but ultimately in our lives we give ourselves and our being and our trust into something. And Dylan uses the language of devil or Lord. It's either we give ourselves into the way of God or the way that isn't God, whatever that may be. I thought of this song this week when I was looking at Luke's story of Jesus. It's a particularly difficult and challenging passage, and it comes really after 3 stories on being lost and found: a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son, a story that we might associate or call the prodigal son. A kid who asks his father for his inheritance before his father's dead, in effect wishing his father dead. And his father gives it to him, and he takes off for foreign land to live it up, to live the life he's dreamed of. And he has all the money and therefore the friends and the parties, and he lives his life trusting in this money, in this dream, in this thing he's got. And it's great for a while, but then the money runs out and the friends run away, and he's left homeless, destitute on the streets. And it's in that pit of despair, I guess, that he makes a decision, comes to his senses, it says, and realises that his father's servants, slaves, have more than he's got. They live in more comfort and luxury than he does. So he determines to go home and to confess to his father that he's got this wrong. Will he take him in as a hired servant? So he makes the journey home, and the beautiful moment in the story is that we discover the father's been out there every day, waiting, watching, looking, hoping that this foolish boy of his, this foolish son, will come to his senses and come home. And he sees this figure in a distance, could that be this boy? Could that be? And as he watches, it's him. And he runs and throws himself on the boy and cries. And he's just overjoyed. This son who was lost is now found, who's dead but alive, now alive, is home. And the boy tries to pull away and offer his confession and plead his case to be a slave in the household. And as he's given it, his father basically says, "Oh, shut up, kid. You're my son. You've always been my son, and you'll always be my son." And that's the beautiful moment of the story, that this kid who squandered everything comes to his senses and recognises that he's got it wrong. And perhaps once he loses everything, it's not that hard to recognise where home is and where he belongs. That flows onto the story this week, where Jesus is talking and there's religious leaders and privileged people listening in. And he points out to them, he says, you complain about me eating with ordinary people, low life, marginalised, sinners you call them. But I tell you, they're the ones who God loves as well. They're lost as well as you. And I've come to show the way. And Jesus, I guess, talks about 2 realms. One is this realm of God, which is grounded in love, not sentimental love, but justice and hope and life and inclusion. A place where everyone belongs, everyone's got a seat at the table, and there's enough for everyone, enough resources to go around. And he compares that with the reign of Caesar, which is the dominant reign of his world. Caesar is the most powerful person in their Roman world. And Caesar's reign is characterised by oppressive power, dominating power, violent power, power through armies, power through crucifixion and punishment and whippings and lashings and imprisonment. Caesar is wealthy and powerful. And in his world, it's the wealthy and the powerful who become wealthier and more powerful. And the impoverished become more impoverished and struggle. And the wealthier and more powerful people become, the more honoured they feel and think they are. And Jesus questions this. And in the story today, he tells a story of a man, a rich master, who has many lands and many businesses and is wealthy, and probably lives in one of the large cities like Jerusalem. And he has a steward, a manager, a household manager, it's translated as, I guess, who looks after his properties and his businesses and collects the debts. People who have no land on which to grow their food have to work for money and then buy food from the wealthy. And they buy it at elevated prices. And the manager, the steward, it's his job to control the income. They weren't allowed to charge interest, that was against the law, but they get around it by building in exorbitant rates into the capital. And it can be 50, 100% more than the cost or the price of the goods they're buying. And this steward managed that. Word got out to the master. Maybe it was true or maybe it was fear-mongering of people that didn't like him, spreading rumours, that he was squandering the master's resources. And the master was forced to investigate this, and he sends word saying, look, I'm not sure what you're doing, but what I've heard is not good. I'm coming to investigate. And the manager gets, or the steward gets concerned and thinks, well, I could easily get sacked here. And so he thinks to himself, if I do, what am I going to do to survive? Because I can't go and do the manual labour that others do. My hands have grown soft from the job I'm doing. My body's soft. I couldn't bear it. The only other alternative would be begging for food like the other impoverished, destitute people. And I don't want that either. And so he hatches a plan. He calls in the master's debtors, the people who are indebted to the master, and he gets them to bring the bills in. So the bills are written in their own handwriting so that they can't protest it later on. And he gets them to get it out, and he says, how much do you owe the master? And they say, and he says, well, make that halve that, or cut 20% off that, or whatever. And for each person, there was a discount. Probably the discount of the taxation or the increase that he put onto it for his master's profit. Quite substantial. And maybe including his own cut, which would be on top of that again. And so these debtors went away happy. Wow, he's cut my debt in half or by a third or whatever it is. And the idea is when or if the master sacks him, these people might take him in, may even employ him, but will look after him. He ingratiates himself to them. So the master comes down from the city, and as he's walking down through the town, these people are coming up and slapping him on the back saying, wow, thank you. Your generosity is wonderful. I'm telling all my friends, deal with you, mate. You can imagine that kind of picture. And the master's going, what's going on? And then he discovers that this steward has reduced the debts of these people. And he's caught. The master's caught because For them, wealth wasn't an end in itself so much as a means to greater honour. The wealthy became more powerful and more honoured. And there were many ways in which you could lose honour or become dishonoured. Two of the main ones was to have an unfaithful, unscrupulous servant managing your finances, and the other one was to take back a gift. The master's caught now. If he gets angry and says, well, look, I didn't do that, you're going to have to pay the full amount, or he would lose honour. If he sacks the steward because he believes him unscrupulous, word will get out and people will say, hang on, what's going on? And he'll lose honour. And that's the last thing he wants. And so what he does is compliment this steward on his shrewdness. You've been shrewd and you've proven yourself. And Jesus also affirms this man in his shrewdness. Not necessarily in the way he deals with things, and he doesn't justify the indebtedness or the whole economic management and system of which this man's a part. But what he says is, this man who was in trouble used passion, energy, creativity and shrewdness to find a way through, to save his own skin. And he says, looking around at the people, those who follow in this way of Caesar are often shrewder than those who follow in the way of God. Those who follow in the way of Caesar, the way of wealth, the way of power and might, the way of lining their own pockets with money, are often more passionate and creative than you are in proclaiming God's reign and God's love. And he says, I encourage you to use the money that you can for good. And he makes this distinction between money that is worshipped as mammon. Mammon has a spiritual connotation, a connotation of being worshipped and prized, the thing that holds our heart. Money is mammon, and money is a useful tool in the economy, neutral, that can be used for good or bad. And he says, when you walk in the way of me, when you walk in the way of God, give up your money. Don't trust in it, because you can trust in it to think it will save you and make you happy. But the day will come when you discover it has no power. It's all a lie. Don't trust yourself, your own power or your own might or your wealth or what you can possess. Because when you possess things, they will ultimately possess you and they'll take you down. If you want life, then this way of God is the only true way. It's a way of hope and love. And it's not just life for you, it's life for the world. It's life for everyone. When we learn to share and be generous with our resources, providing for those who have nothing or have too little, everyone gets enough. Everyone gets a seat at this table and everyone discovers love. And he says, that's what I want you to do. And I want you to be shrewd and creative and passionate and energetic for the way of love, the way of justice, the way of hope, the way of peace. Because if you don't, they will control the world. And they will turn it into a world of domination and oppression and violence. And that's not my way. So Jesus invites us into the way of God, in the way of love, the way of hope and peace. And I guess as Bobby Dylan sings, you've got to serve somebody. You've got to serve something. Even when you don't think you are, you're giving your life and your heart to something. It may be God, or it may be something else. When you give your heart to that thing, just ask yourself, what is it that thing is going to give for me? What's it going to do for the world?